So if you own the DJI Osmo Action 4 and you like to ride bikes, today's video is for you. In this video today, I'm going to show you my best settings for using the DJI Osmo Action 4 for POV footage while bike riding. And you don't have to buy a lot of fancy gear or anything like that. As long as you already have a bike, there's just one accessory that I recommend having with this camera. And the accessory that I recommend having is this neck mount holder from Ulanzi. So what this is made of a silicone, soft, very flexible, malleable material. And what you do is you mount your action camera on here. So I'm going to show you. It's got the thumb screw right here. And you put your action camera on approximately like this. Then we put the thumb screw in to tighten it. And then once it's on there, you can adjust the angle of it. And then what you do is you push this red button right here and it clips it open. And then what you can do is you can put it around your neck. It'll click right back into place. You can wear your Osmo Action 4 just like this around your neck while you're riding bike. And once you get the angle, I recommend just checking it using your phone with the DJI Mimo app, just to make sure the angle is all set. And this is very comfortable around the neck, and I find that it stays in place really well. I don't find that I really have to adjust it. Once I set it, it's good to go, and it stays right there. And even on a hot, humid day, like when I recently used this, it was 100 degrees out, and I used it while riding my Vanpower's Urban Glide Pro e-bike, which if you'd like to learn more about that incredible bike, I've linked to my review of it above. I definitely encourage you to check it out. That bike is phenomenal and I love it. But anyway, when I used this recently while riding that bike, there were absolutely no problems with this moving or any other problems. It stayed in place and it was great. So the second part of this video is the best settings on the Osmo Action 4 to get the very best POV bike footage. I'm going to show you those next. Once we're in video mode, we're just going to click down here at the bottom. And first thing we want to make sure of is we want to make sure that we're in 4K 4:3 for the resolution. And the reason I recommend the 4K 4:3, first of all, 4K, you're going to get the very highest quality possible. But the 4:3 is going to give you that vertical extra resolution to work with. So you can really frame your shot there when editing, and it's going to give you a lot of flexibility. That way, if your camera happened to be pointed up or pointed down a little more than you wanted it to, you're not going to have it in 16:9 where that's baked in and already cropped. You can easily crop it and edit it later on a 16:9 timeline. For the frame rate, I recommend doing either 24, 25, or 30. If you're in the United States, I recommend using 24 or 30. The reason I don't recommend going higher than that is when you have a higher frame rate, with so many frames in there, it makes your speed look slower than you're actually going, and it doesn't really make it as immersive or point of view as if you have 24 or 30. With 24 or 30, you can really see the motion in the video, and it definitely really captures that full speed and adventure that you're going. When it comes to Rocksteady, I recommend just having Rocksteady on. You don't have to do Rocksteady Plus unless you're in a lot of bumps or something like that. If you do Rocksteady Plus, it is going to introduce a crop. So I recommend doing Rocksteady. I find that works fabulous. And then we're going to scroll back down and we're going to go over to the right here. And make sure Pro is selected in the upper right there. You want to have Pro selected so you can adjust all your settings here and kind of fine tune them. For the exposure right here, you're going to have it auto, but you're going to set some parameters here. First thing is up here with the shutter speed, we want to make an adjustment. We're going to click on that where it says S200. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you've set your shutter speed range from 1/200 to 1/8000. And basically what that does is that makes sure that your shutter speed doesn't get too slow. That's really important if you're going in and out of shade or if you're going in any darker places, like between tall buildings where it's shadowed, or in my case on my bike ride, I went through a train tunnel. And what that's going to help ensure is it's going to help ensure your shutter speed doesn't get too slow. Because if your shutter speed gets too slow with the Rocksteady on, it's going to look bad. There's going to be a lot of ghosting and jitteriness in the footage. But generally, if you keep it at 1/200 or higher, when in 24 or 30 frames per second, you're not going to have much or any ghosting. There's a little bit of ghosting when going through the tunnel because it's very dark in there, but there's not much. So it's important to have that range set. And then for the ISO range over here, I recommend doing 100 to 1600. That's going to ensure your ISO isn't too high. That way you don't have grain in your footage. We're going to confirm those. And then finally for the EV comp, I recommend doing the negative 0.3. It's going to help ensure that your highlights don't get blown out in some of those brighter areas. Negative 0.3 gives the best results. For white balance, I recommend setting this to a static value. It's going to make it easier to edit later on versus having an automatic white balance. I usually like to set it at 5000K if I'm just out biking in the middle of the day, so I'm going to keep it at that. You can always adjust that later on when editing. But the nice thing is all your clips are going to have that same static white balance. For the color mode, this is mostly a preference. I like to do D-Log M because that gives me that 10-bit footage that I can really grade later on and bring out the most detail, contrast, colors in that. But if you don't really want to do grading later on, you can just keep it color normal. It's still going to give you good results. But if you really want to get the max out of the footage, do D-Log M. For the field of view, I recommend doing wide or ultra wide. You can do either depending on what type of width you want. I usually do wide, and in the video footage samples that I have here, I used wide. Standard D-Warp I find is just too much of a crop, and I like to have that little bit wider field of view. And down here for the sharpness and noise reduction, for POV bike riding, I like to keep those both at 0. I don't want to have it over or under sharp, and I don't really want the noise reduction applied either. I just want to keep it right there. I find that creates the best looking footage when POV bike riding. And finally over here for the mic settings, I like to use an external mic if I'm talking at all. And in the case of this video, I was talking while on my bike quite a bit. You can see the full hour and 10-minute bike ride video above if you'd like to check it out. But for the audio, if you're going to be talking and not have an external mic, if you're going to use this, just note that there is going to be wind noise, especially if you're going 15 to 20 miles per hour like I was in a lot of that video. So do note you're going to have some of that wind noise there. Now, even if you have an external mic, depending on how you're wearing it, you're going to get a little bit of that and noise of the bike, of course, but I find you want a little bit of that. It helps it feel more POV and immersive. And for the noise reduction, if you are going to use this, I recommend keeping wind noise reduction on. If you're using an external mic, that's not going to matter because you can sync it up later on. So those are my best settings for getting the best POV footage with the DJI Osmo Action 4. I highly recommend this accessory from Ulanzi. I find I like this a lot better than some of the other chest mount options out there. And I like it better than the helmet mount options. I feel like the helmet mount has the camera a little bit too high and it doesn't feel as immersive. But when you have that camera right here at this level, your audience watching your video is going to feel like they're a part of it, which is really cool. They're going to feel like they're the one riding that bike. So I've linked to this mount in the description below. And I've also linked to the Vanpower's Urban Glide Pro in case you want to check out that really cool e-bike. I've had so much fun riding that, and I'm looking forward to getting out on it again. So I hope you have a great time filming that POV bike footage with your DJI Osmo Action 4.